TV. This will be episode 4 technically, and good news for everyone, these are also finally going to be up on YouTube and up on myspace.com/kitchenwitchtv. So this week, gearing up to actually do some spells and magical work for Halloween, I've got a book review of a couple books that I found recently, good sales at Barnes & Noble, and seems like a lot of times there's maybe not a lot to see kind of new in the world. I mean, what else can you say about magic? You know, what else can you say about spells and stuff? But I found a couple authors that seem to have kind of found new ways to say old things. So I'm going to start with this book right here. And this is by Judika Illes. She is a New Yorker who was a tarot card reader, aromatherapist, and a multicultural studies teacher. She has a couple previous books of magic spells, and you can get her at judikailles.com. That's JUDIKAILLES.com. That's her name. So this is the Element Encyclopedia of 1,000 Spells, and I found this one very interesting and well worth reading because about the first, say, 100 pages of it, up to about like so, is kind of an introduction to, you know, not just what is magic and if it works, why does it work, how can you make it work, things like that, but it's also, it was, you know, where do these spells come from? If a spell calls for a certain plant, for example, what culture believed that that plant had those powers? Or if a spell calls for a certain essential oil, you know, what culture was it that believed that that essential oil had those properties? And so I think that's, and of course, as a student of multicultural studies, obviously, you know, she would kind of know where that comes from. And what I think is really, really interesting, and what I really liked about this that was different from other books, that it's just like, okay, here's just a recipe book of spells. Two really awesome things. She, instead of just telling you, you know, okay, well, go out and get, you know, such and such incense, or go out to your local voodoo shop and get war water, you know, which, you know, go out and, you know, get like, you know, goofer dust or whatever you could get from a magic shop, or a certain kind of incense, whatever. In the back, she's got kind of a list of various different ways to prepare these sort of basic ingredients. You know, like if the spell calls for bay rum, she tells you how to make, you know, bay rum, for example. So I thought that was pretty neat. And the other thing I found interesting, her spells are very well categorized. So she has, you know, and more useful spells. I mean, you know, love spells are useful and everything, but not all that practical. But she has a bunch of very practical spells in there as well. And then Titania Hardy, she's an Australian author who has several other books that she's written before. And she did a really interesting, and I thought the book was just beautiful as well on the inside. She did a really interesting take on the Chinese fortune-telling book, the I Ching, and the book, these little spots in the front, these little coins, divination coins come with it. So instead of needing to get Chinese coins, you've got a sun on one side and a moon on the other. The oracle reads just the same way the I Ching does, you know, with the flipping the coins and counting how many heads and tails you have. But she's updated the meanings to be a lot more immediate and practical, which I really appreciated. And she's also made it a lot easier. With the normal I Ching, you need to find out, you know, what's your birth year, what's your birth sign, are you like a metal rooster or a wood horse, you know, depending on your birth year and season. And she's categorized those a lot more simply, so it's very easy to flip through and find out what your season is, because different readings that you may get may be more personally relevant to you based on whether or not the reading contains one of the elements of your birth sign or not. So both very inexpensive and both well worth getting a hold of. And this has been another episode of Kitsode, 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 of Kitsode.